checking one thing. Let's see.
I see the comments coming in. Let me know when they can hear me, and I'll be able to say hey to some people. That'll be cool.
On YouTube, they're good. I'm trying to check and see if the Facebook is gonna be good, because the Facebook's like just sitting here for right now.
That feedback, is that coming from my phone or yours? Let's see.
Is there feedback? It won't be
It
from
is.
us.
It's only because I'm watching it on YouTube. It's okay. So
Okay.
I can give some shout outs.
Yeah, they should be able to hear you at this point.
All right, cool.
Lee Sean, though.
Heck yeah. What's up, Lee Sean, man? I'm glad to see you on. See you in the DFW. Um, love from Tobago. I see you, Kaylin Williams. First of all, I want to thank every single person for coming on tonight. I want to thank all of you guys for being there for me in my time of trauma, my time of need. I am nowhere near where I need to be, but listen, guys, y'all help be coming through right in the nick of time, man. So sometimes it be down to the last dollar and somebody donate. So I'll be so happy. So I really want to thank y'all. So shout out to Eddie Sledge. Hi, it's Nikki. Hey, how you doing? Nathaniel, what's going on? Kaylin, Nathaniel, Riri High, Eric Newsom. Let's see here. Monica Blakely. Let's give a shout out to Sosa. What's going on? Tim Thomas. And let's see here. Aisha Walker. Thank you, Aisha. It is good to be on. If you guys can tell, my voice is weak. I had my stomach worked on, and I'm not back to full health at all, not even in my voice. So, Eddie, what's up with you? Monica, what's up? Let's see here. Becky, how you doing? Thank you so much for the donation, Darlene. Um, let's see here. And 1118 ill. I think I'm saying that right. Probably not. Peace to all melanated family, they say. Peace to you. Thank you very much, Sean, for the donation. And listen, guys, please donate tonight. Thank y'all very much in advance. I do need it. I want to thank Ricky, first and foremost, just for taking the time to come and do his segment on my show. Like, that means a lot to me. He said he really just wanted to do it because he wanted to open my show up so people could donate to my cause. I'm telling you, man, I don't really know too many good people, man, like that. But he is one of them. My circle is so, so small. But I'm telling you, that dude is the real deal. I love the guy like a brother. I don't ever see our relationship being severed. Some people, you know, when you meet in your life, you know they're gonna always be there. And he's one of those guys. Josh is one of those guys. Lee Sean. So I mean, I got really close people to me that I really appreciate. And for y'all who've made multiple donations, some of y'all come and look on there in the GoFundMe and the Facebook, not Facebook, but of course PayPal. And some of y'all make multiple donations, man. So I know some of y'all out there really do genuinely love me. And so I really do appreciate it. Y'all don't understand how much that vibration keeps me going, man. Like, this is really hard for me. It's painful. The feeding tube is the worst. Man, it's so, so, so bad. My body's like fighting against it. And I'm still trying to do it because I need the nutrients. And you got to be hooked to this thing for like 16 hours, y'all. It's one of the worst things I ever done. But I'm telling you, man, like, y'all give me encouragement, man. So I really do appreciate y'all. Um, Rick, man, let's share a couple words before I get off, man, because I know I can't stay on long. I can already feel that last cycle of medication kicking in, and I know what happens when that happens. So, um, welcome on, bro. And it's good to see you again. How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, they should be able to hear you. Let's make sure.
You guys hear Rick, right?
Okay. Well, yeah, we had to. Yeah, we had to get Kev on here to introduce the show. And again, just as he said, like, maybe I don't even know. Like, I'm so emotional right now, man, from that intro, kid, man. I don't even know if I can continue, man. You just got me all like touched, man. I'm touched. But yeah, man, it's kind words, man. You are a genuine person, Kevin, a genuine man. I mean, if there was just more people in the world like you, man, this world would be in a much better condition. But if we can just get people to see past the one barrier that's kind of blocking everyone from being able to truly come together. Just something personal touched me just recently. I know I've been telling people I've gotten off of religion, just so much, focusing on just making videos about that particular subject matter, but just something touched me recently that I think I just need to reiterate some things and make some points that I see a lot of other videos on YouTube regarding this topic. People have missed some of those points, so I want to go in and just touch on some of those, and then also just kind of tie in some current events with the whole Monsanto lawsuit with the gentleman. I think his name is Mr. Williams. He sued Monsanto for like $259 million. Well, actually won the suit. My hometown, Anniston, Alabama, actually had a suit against Monsanto for $700 million. And the money that my grandmother received from that settlement, she actually gave all of that money to the church. So I just, and that kind of just infuriated me. And I was like, oh, I got to go back in. We got to go back in. So, so I just appreciate you allowing me to do this on your platform. And of course, I'm always going to do things in a decent and in a professional manner, so to make sure that your reputation, is always going to be intact, and I'm always keeping you at the forefront with all of my thoughts and any of my opinions about certain things. So I'm always thinking about you and your brand. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to get into this and thank everybody for tuning in. And man, we gonna donate, man. We're gonna get this donation going. So unless you have anything else to say, Kev, we probably just gonna get started here in a little bit.
Well, yeah, sure, man. I want to say thank you to Rolling Thunder and Anwar George. Listen, guys, I won't be on after this, but every time y'all donate, man, I want y'all to hear my voice inside of your third eye saying, actions speak louder than words, man. I really, truly mean it. And I want to tell you, for all of you guys joining tonight, if you've never been on, please take the time and listen. Listen, this is not to all of you or to hurt people's feelings, but this brother is about to go into something that is really detrimental to poor communities, period. Listen, they manipulated us to give them our money. Money is a tool. And with these tools, we could have been cleaned up a lot of the problems that's in our communities. But they're not, because we give our money to people who misappropriate the funds. This has got to stop. And Rick is going to go into this stuff. Wherever you stand right now on your idea of tithe, drop it all. Just listen to what the man has to say. He's going to talk about reality now and how we're being used, and we're helping these people rob us every week by giving our money to them. So just have an open mind and listen to what this brother has to say, and not just to listen and learn something. Take this with you and change your life and change somebody else's, because no candle loses its flame by lighting another. I love all of y'all so much, man, and please just take your time, listen, learn, and let's come out of this live right here better. Let's come out of this live stronger, so we can continue and make somebody else better and stronger. And I'm gone. I thank all of you guys. And thank you so much, Ricky, Josh, Lee Sean, all the mediators who out here, Dawn, all of y'all who out here looking out. I appreciate you all. And so I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, man. You have a good night,
hear
brother.
my voice going, so I will, brother. I'm watching as much as I can.
Okay. All right.
All right, brother.
Take off these headphones. Yo, Josh, can you still hear me?
I can, but I'll probably echo.
All right.
If you take your headphones
cool,
off.
Yeah, I might need you, man. So we gonna. All right. So basically, how I'm gonna start this off is Kevin. He did a great intro, and we got a little freeze there. Josh, can you? Did we lose video? Okay.
Nah, just a little freeze.
We back. Okay. All right. So yeah, begging for change, and again, I'm just gonna give my page, of course, on Facebook. I'm Ricky Swink. On YouTube is begging for change. If you can just take a moment to subscribe to the page, and I'm not pushing this for popularity. some of us can see. And the way this world is, and some of the things that you're able to see, and you look at things differently, sometimes it's difficult. So I'm going to be putting up a lot of videos and a lot of content just to get people to think and to get people to open up their minds. And that's the importance of you subscribing to this page, not only just regarding religious topics, just social issues, educational things where you can learn, maybe teach your children. Just so it's just going to be a variety of content that's going to be coming forth from this page. Not everything is going to be politically correct. Nothing disrespectful. Okay, so that's one thing I try to stay away from. I may say something that the average person may not say because of the way I think, but I still try to do it in a way that it's not utterly offensive. So it just might be offensive to your views and your paradigm, but I'm not going to be disrespectful to you with offensive language and things of that nature. So if you can just take a moment to subscribe to the page so I can build it and get things coming forth. I know the last few videos have been pretty, sometimes they're bad because my live streaming skills are just not there yet. I mean, Josh is helping me with that. So I've done every live stream blooper imaginable. So, but I do appreciate the people that have stayed on and allowed me to continue to bring this content, despite some of the difficulties with my live streaming skills. So with that being said, I also just want to take a moment to just say, hey, we already have a lot of donations coming through, and I get it. A lot of us are weary of donating and helping people because you're like, man, if everybody gives $2, this dude gonna end up with 100K. So Kevin is not that dude, man. Like I said, I have vision, and I'm able to see things that a lot of people cannot see. So if you can just take a moment to just whatever you can give, whether it be $5. I was just talking to Josh earlier before I came on, and we throw away $5 at the corner store, at the convenience store. So, and those people, they don't care about you. We throw away. My son throws away $5, not from me because I don't buy anything, but his mom gives him money, and he just buys these little tokens and things like that on his video game without even thinking about it. So $2, $3, $5, whatever you can do. So I'm just gonna take a moment right here and just do my little thing that I always do. And I should have already had this up. All right, so I'll put that in the chat. So I'm just making sure, I put my money where my mouth is, and and donate, to my brother. So all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this in the chat real quick. All right, so thanks for bearing with us. Bearing with me while I get this little donation in for Kev real quick. All right, so we got that in there. All right. Okay, so yeah, if you can, just donate. But so what I want to talk about is tithes and offerings. Okay, so I have a few people that may be watching who hasn't totally disconnected from religion yet. I'm pretty knowledgeable in this topic because when I used to teach religion, it's a topic that I always touched on. But there's a lot of information on YouTube. There's a lot of videos regarding this subject. But in those videos, I often hear, I often a lot of points regarding this topic are actually missed. So there's a lot of uncommon things regarding tithes and offerings that A lot of people don't talk about it in their videos, and I kind of just want to pinpoint some of those scriptures and some of those verses, and how in modern day times that this just doesn't add up. So you can actually use this information like to free yourself financially from the burden of thinking that you have to pay some church or some religious organization 10% of your money, 10% of your income. And even some of the churches that have a lot of money and their congregation is not impoverished like ours is. Um, like they have all types of ways that you can give. They have apps. They have kiosks at the building. They have ATMs. They have all of these ways for you to be able to give money. So they have more ways for you to be able to give money than for ways for you to receive money. So and this shit kind of like ring a bell in your head to say, okay, why all these methods for me to give money, but when I need something, there's not too many ways for me to be able to be a recipient of help when I need it from this church or from this religious organization. So I'm gonna talk about that a little bit, but just with some of these establishments, you have to understand that this 10% that this book is talking about and that they try to get you to pay, it's not something that should be done today. I'm going to go in and I'm going to like pretty much I'm going to destroy tithes and offerings for you, but it's you should want me to destroy it because it's going to set, if you are still within the confines of religion, it's actually going to set you free financially if you can take the information and apply it right away. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to talk about a case. I'm from Anniston, Alabama. Okay, so I've been living in Arizona for the last 20 years or so. So I spent the first 20 years, the first 19 years of my life in Alabama. Spent the last 19 years of my life in Arizona. So if you do the math, that will make me 38 years old. Okay, so the first 19 years I'm in Anniston, Alabama. So this company, and if you're watching this from Alabama, the company we call it Monsanto because we in the South we country and we change the spelling on everything. So I'm country too. So the company is called Monsanto, but we actually call it Monsanto. Okay, so this chemical company, it actually poisoned the city of Anniston, and from like about 1941 to like like 19, I think the early 1930s to about the late 60s, early 70s. Okay, so they have been dumping toxic waste in the backyards and in the ponds, the rivers, the creeks of the city for like 40 years. Okay, so $700 million lawsuit was won back in 2002, 2003. Again, as I indicated in the introduction, realized that my grandmother actually received with this new Monsanto case that just came up with the gentleman who sued the company and won a settlement for about 259, I think it was, $1 million, from the company. So one man received a settlement of 250 million. Okay, an entire city only got 700 million. So I'm just going to talk about the disparity of that entire situation. So you've been poisoning this community for 40 years. Okay, and these chemicals, they call them PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls. Okay, so these are what they call persistent or organic compounds. Okay, so these compounds are pollutants. Okay, they call them POPs, persistent organic pollutants. And the reason why they call them that is because they don't degrade in the environment. So when they get into the environment, they last for years and years and years. And with them being persistent, they can actually end up miles and miles away from where the chemicals originated from. So these things are persistent in the environment. They're harmful to the environment. They're actually harmful to the human body. So this company that which dumped these chemicals in this community for 40 years. Okay, so these things cause you cancer. They're carcinogens. Okay, which cause cancer. My sister at 33 years old, she died of cancer. My aunt died of cancer. Never once did it occur in my mind that their cancer could have developed from these chemicals that was being dumped in the city. So the toxins were so high and so bad that some of the community that lived close to the plant, they had to leave their homes. They actually couldn't live there anymore. So the levels was so high. So again, this settlement with this gentleman who was spraying Roundup, and the chemicals in the Roundup actually the carcinogens, excuse me, is actually contributed to him developing cancer, some type of lymphoma. He and also he had an accident where his body got drenched in these chemicals. So it was an accident that he pretty much caused himself. He was spraying these chemicals in on the school grounds. So back spray and things like that, the chemicals was getting on his skin and actually, turned into skin cancer. So um, his actions through his job and through just his own fault actually contributed to him being, I guess, detrimentally exposed to these chemicals. So he won a $250 million lawsuit, but a town who didn't have anything to do was exposed to these chemicals just by living close to this chemical plant, and they only won $700 million. And I'm gonna kind of break that down. So um, to make my point, I just came into the knowledge about a week ago that my grandmother actually took all of her money. And it wasn't a lot of money, but to poor people it is. Okay, so probably about $10,000. Okay, and gave all of that money to the church because she felt like she owed back tithes. Okay, she didn't give it to me. She didn't give it to any of her other family members who desperately needed that money. Could have bought some property or could have, put a down payment on a home or something to that effect that could have been passed down in the family. Could have kept it in the family. Nothing like that. Gave all of that money to the church. And then the irony of the situation is that my grandmother died and didn't even have any money to bury herself. So my sister died. Luckily, she had some type of little insurance, but this is the fault of some of these churches. So it prompted me. I said, you know what? I have to talk about this. I got to go in and I have to break down tithes and offerings because we have to revisit it. I know we've had the conversation before, but we definitely need to go in and talk about this again. Let me just kind of look at some of the chat and see if anybody's saying anything. First of all, I just want to say hello to Lee Sean. Um, a lot of people that's Patience, Nick, everybody, Nikki. If I miss Tim, Shundell, all of the people that's always Y people, that's always supporting Kev. Appreciate your support and your continued support and just supporting the channel and then just supporting every stream that becomes available. Okay, so but what I want to go in, I'm actually going to touch on tithes right now. Okay, from a biblical aspect. Okay, so the thing about tithes that a lot of people don't realize is tithes was never money. Okay, so the first point or the first argument that I always hear is that, well, Ricky, they didn't have money at that time. So they had to give whatever it is that they had. That's actually not true because if you go over to Exodus, I think it's like the 30th chapter, you will find that they did have a monetary system back in those. We know this never happened. I'm just I'm just providing this information based off of the mythology. Okay, so if I speak like this is true, I'm just looking at it from that perspective. Okay, so in Exodus in the 30th chapter, they actually gave money. Everyone was commanded to give half a shekel, which is, according to this book, was 20 giras. So they did have a monetary system, and what they gave this money for, they said whether you be rich or whether you be poor, everybody gives the same amount. So once a child became a certain age, they was commanded to give a half a shekel, which is what they called an atonement offering. Okay, so that's money right there. So if tithes was ever going to be money, they could have always given money. Okay, so another thing with tithing is that they was always commanded to eat the tithe. It had to be something that could be eaten. Okay, it was commanded to be eaten. Okay, so if you go to Deuteronomy, let's see, I think it's Deuteronomy chapter 14. Okay, so if you just read that whole chapter, you will see that there's a few things with this chapter that I want to point out. It was commanded that they tithe the increase. Okay, it was also commanded that they take the tithe to the place where supposedly God placed his name. So if you're gonna do tithes and offerings today, or let's just focus on tithing for right now, for the sake of this information. If you're gonna take tithes, that means God have the Lord, this God has to tell someone where to take the tithe to. Okay, so some preachers believe that God don't talk to people anymore. He only talked to you through this word. So if he can't tell you where to take the tithe to, how you supposed to do what the Bible says to do with this tithe? So the hypocrisy in all of this is they give the command for you to give the tithe, and then in turn they don't do everything that the Bible commands them to do with the tithe. And I'm going to point out a lot of those things. So your preacher can't run from this. Okay, so again, God or the Lord has to tell the person where to take the tithe to so that they can eat it. It says, eat it in the presence of the Lord. Okay, so also it commanded them, it says, look, the place that I tell you to go, he says, if it's too far or if the journey is going to be too hard because you're taking a lot of stuff. You're taking livestock, you're taking produce, you're taking all of these things, okay, with you. He says if where I tell you to go is too far, it's gonna be too hard for you to carry all of these things. He says, take the tithe, turn it into money. And people are like, there you go, Rick. I got you, Rick. It's right there. It says money. Tithes was money. No, he says, take the money, bind it up in your hand. But he says, when you get to the place where I tell you to go, he says you buy something to eat with it. Okay, and he says you eat it in the presence of the Lord. But then he says, with the widow, the fatherless, the stranger, and the Levite. Okay, so again, not money. It was a situation where they had to turn it into money, but then they had to buy something to eat with it. And it says strong drink and etc. etc. Whatever your heart desire. People are gonna say I'm taking it out of context. I'm missing scriptures. I don't want to quote it verbatim, but go in and read it. But I've read the entire Bible. Okay, not only read it, I've taught it to people. Okay, okay. So white people is just point out. I actually made a real side note to what white people are saying. I actually made a video yesterday saying thank you God, and I'm thanking God for everything that He done for me. Not everything He did for you, but everything that He's done for me. Okay, so because that's what it's all about. It's all about you. Prayers are very selfish. Okay, so if you go to my page, Begging for Change, you'll see the Thank You God video on Facebook. I think it's done about 3,000 views on Facebook, but on YouTube, it's kind of struggling on YouTube. I'm always struggling on YouTube. But okay, so back to this tithing issue. So again, wasn't money. So when you go to your preacher and ask him to explain it, I'm pretty sure he got an explanation for you, but he can't explain it out of the book. It was never money. They had to eat it. Okay, and then another couple points and this is a point that a lot of people miss. Okay, over in Numbers, and let me get the scripture here, man. Numbers 18 chapter, I think around the 26th verse. Okay, it says that they had to give a tithe of a tithe. Okay, so a tenth of the tithe that the Levites received, they had to give a tenth of that. Okay, and then they had to put that on the altar as a heave offering. And if you don't know what a heave offering is, it's just basically you heave whatever it is up on the altar and you burn it up. Okay, so that's a heave offering. They had to do that as a heave offering. Okay, so ask the preacher. He says, okay, so the tithe of the tithe, why don't we do that? Why don't we take 10% of the 10% and burn it up and offer it up to God? They can't do that. Okay, so again, shows you it was never money. You're gonna burn up 10% of the money? Like, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so a tithe of the tithe over in Numbers, read it. I'm not taking it out of context. Okay, so another thing about tithing is, like, if you go through out the Old Testament, like if you read throughout like 1 Samuel, when it talks about the sons of Eli, you'll see that they was doing like horrible things. Like, they was sleeping with the women at the gate that lay at the gate of the tabernacle. So you got the priests sleeping with the women. They was it was said they was putting their hooks down into the flesh pots and take whatever we take up is gonna be ours. And then when certain people came to offer their offering, they was like, okay, they was like, yeah, you can have the offering or the fat of the offering after you burn it up. Okay, but they say burn it first, burn it up first, offer it up first, and then you could get whatever it is that's left over. They say, no, give it to me now like it is. I want the raw meat. And they say, if you don't give me the raw meat, we're gonna take it by force. That's over in 1 Samuel. So it was actually the priest that was actually doing all of the corruptness, doing all of the wicked things. So if you go over to Deuteronomy, okay, if you go over to Deuteronomy, excuse me, not Deuteronomy, but if you go over to Malachi, okay, and in the book of Malachi, it's just 4 chapters long. So if you are a Christian, if you are a Bible believer, and you haven't read the book of Malachi throughout its entirety, you should be ashamed of yourself, okay, because it's only 4 chapters, okay. So check this out. Malachi. Can't take it out of context, okay? In chapter 1, he's talking to the priest, okay? And I'm just like, trust me, when I thought about doing this stream, I didn't go, I kind of refreshed on a few things just to make sure I was on point, but like this is things I used to teach years ago. So it's still in my memory, okay? Malachi in the 1st chapter, he's talking to the priest because he says, do you offer up offerings to your governor or to anybody important with these blemishes? He say you offer up the blemish sacrifice, but you keep the best sacrifice for yourself. He's talking to the priest in chapter 1. That's clear. Chapter 2, he's talking to the priest because he's talking about cursing the priest if they don't return back to the way that they were supposed to do things. He says you already cursed with a curse because you don't lay the commandments to heart. Okay, so there it is talking to the priest. Chapter 3 is talking to the priest because he says, I will purify the sons of Levi. Okay, so the sons of Levi, that's the Levitical priesthood. That's the tribe of Levi. He's saying the sons of Levi will purify them and make them like refined as gold. Okay, so he's talking before he even get into will a man rob God. Okay, so this robbery that he's talking about, it sounds very familiar. Okay, the robbery that he's talking about is the robbery that if let's just say this is true, okay, and we was supposed to give tithes nowadays. The robbery that he's talking about, he's actually talking about the preacher. Will a man rob God? He's not talking to the person that's giving the donation or giving the tithe. He's talking to the person that's receiving the tithe because they're the ones that's receiving the offering and not offering up the best part of the offering up to God. Okay, so you just have to take this in context. And then also in that chapter, going into those verses when he says, will a man rob God? He says, bring all the tithes into the storehouse so that there will be meat in my house. Food, something to eat. Because he goes into the next verse and he says, will I not open up heaven and pour out a blessing that you don't have room to receive? He's talking about rain. If you open up the windows of heaven, it's gonna rain, crops are gonna grow, bam, we're gonna have tithes. You're gonna grow. You're gonna have a harvest. You're gonna be able to feed your animals. We're gonna have tithes. Okay. So, but they spin this verse on you to make you feel like that you're robbing God for not giving the 10% when they not even supposed to be taking the 10% in the first place. And let me tell you another thing about this verse over in Malachi. Okay, it plays on your emotions. It's psychologically. Okay, because a religious person who wants to rob God? Who wants to rob God? No one. No one wants to rob God. So he's playing on your emotions and he's playing on your psyche that you're robbing God, okay? And who don't want a blessing? So he's telling you robbing God. You don't want to do that, so you give that money. And then he's telling you that he gonna bless you for giving it. So he busting you upside the head 2 times psychologically. He say you robbing him, you don't want to rob him, and then who don't want to bless him, okay? So Malachi. But then people say, look, Rick, that's the Old Testament, okay? Isn't it funny how they go into the Old Testament to get you to give some money, but then when you start pointing out all of the atrocities in the Old Testament, they don't want to hear that. That's the Old Testament. We don't do that no more. That was just saying gospel. Well, why you pointing out the Old Testament to get my money though? You see what I'm saying? Isn't it you see the irony in that? Okay, so let's go to the New Testament. Okay, Jesus, the mythical character, and I definitely want to emphasize on that and point that out. Okay, he spoke about tithes. Okay, because they'll run into the Old Testament real quick and they'll try to get you there. Let me break down this whole verse with Jesus talking about tithes. He's talking to the Pharisees. Okay, and he tells the Pharisees, he said, look. Okay, He says, you give tithes of mint, anise, cumin. He's naming herbs. He's naming things that you can consume, things that you can use for cooking and doing things with. He didn't say nothing about money. He says, you give tithes of anise, cumin, and what was he? Anise, cumin, and mint. Okay. But he says you give the tithe, but he says you lay aside the weightier matters of the law. Okay. So basically, he's saying he says do the tithing, but this other thing you should be doing as well, showing love, showing judgment, and showing faith. But the thing about it is, according to this mythology, Christ hadn't died yet, so people were still following the old Mosaic law. But once he died and once he was sacrificed, the law is supposed to be done away with. You know, and I know a lot of people are arguing and say, well, Christ didn't come to destroy the law; he came to fulfill it. Blah 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 blah. I'm gonna get into that later when I go into the book of Hebrews. Okay, so again, New Testament, Christ talked about tithe to the Pharisees. He mentions food. He didn't mention money. Okay, again, tithes was never money. Okay. Also, when you start getting into the New Testament to kind of break down tithing, Paul never wrote about tithes. And Paul's your boy. He wrote most of the New Testament, all of these epistles. Paul wrote most of them. Okay. Also, one thing that you gotta keep in mind about Paul is it says Paul was a student of Gamaliel, and Gamaliel was supposedly an expert in the law. So you think Paul, being an expert in the law, didn't know anything about tithes and offerings? So why wouldn't he mention it? Why wouldn't he command Christians to give tithes if it was something that was of importance? Okay, with him being an expert in the old law. Okay, so that's another thing you gotta take into account. And then let's go into the epistle of of Galatians. Okay, so when Paul wrote to the Galatians, because they was dabbling in the law, he indicated to them. He says, look. He says, if you want to follow the law, then you make Christ's sacrifice null. Okay, so he says, look, he says, if you want to follow the old law, you got to follow everything. You can't just pick and choose out of the law what you want to follow. He says, because if you don't follow everything, then you're cursed by the law. And then there's a scripture, I think it's Galatians. If it doesn't elude me, I think it's maybe like the 4th chapter. He says that cursed is everyone that continueth not to follow all things that are written in the book of the law. So he says if you're gonna follow one thing, you have to follow it all. Galatians is like 5 chapters. Go read it. I'm not taking it out of context. Okay. Hebrews, which talks about the whole changeover from the old law to the new law. It states in there that he says the priesthood, because they try to get you with the priesthood. They try to say, well, Christ is the high priest now and forever after the order of Melchizedek. I done heard every argument. Okay. It says a necessity. He says the priesthood changed, so there's also a necessity in the change of the law. Okay. So I've heard it all. Okay. So again, every argument, tithes was never money. Okay. They did have money back in the day because they'll try to use that. Okay. In the New Testament, nobody gave tithes except for when Jesus was talking to the Pharisees. The old Mosaic law was still in effect at that time, according to the mythology. Okay. So when they try to hit you over the head and say you obligated to give this money, again, robbing God. He's not talking to the giver. He's talking to the recipient of the money. Okay. So I will kill not literally. I will destroy any preacher on this topic. Okay, it's just our people are going through with ignorance and not knowing what their own book says. Okay, I read the entire book. I studied it. I studied certain topics extensively, more than others. Okay, so I know what the book says. So when I hear something and see something, I can be like, okay, that's not what that is. So again, as far as us not having any money, anyway, most of us are in a situation where we can't even afford to give the church that little $10, $20 that we can give. We can't give them 10%. That's just ridiculous. But even, you're putting the believer in a situation where they can't even fulfill this false obligation in the first place. So, but they're gonna get you for whatever they can get you for because they are moral. Okay. Now let me just make a point. Okay. And this is in the New Testament, and it's with the story of Ananias and Sapphira, and this is going to kind of bring everything home right here in regards to giving. Then I'm going to talk about some other things, okay? Ananias and Sapphira, and they always spin this story on you, and they said, well, Ananias and Sapphira, they sold their property, and they kept back part of the sum, okay? And they died. You know, God killed them. They gave up the ghost, okay? Why they tell you that part of the story? And why do they follow that part of the story? That logic, okay? That these two people, because everybody else sold all of their possessions, sold their land, sold their houses, and they came and they laid the money at the apostles' feet, okay? But this couple, Ananias and Sapphira, they kept back part of the sum, okay? They spin this story, but this is the part of the story that they don't tell you, okay? It says that the church had all things in common. It said they were a one mind, one heart. You know what I'm saying? So they did everything in one accord. Okay, so you didn't have the church down the street doing something different, or you know, in the next town doing something different. But it says they had all things in common, which means that money that was going in was theirs. Okay, you go into a church and you try to tell them that some of that money is yours. It ain't. It's not. They're going to be like, it's not. And then some of the churches, they are open with their books. Okay, they do try to have a little bit of transparency. But you know what? I'll tell them like that those amounts that they reading out to you week by week, how do you even know that those amounts are correct? Do they send you a screenshot of the church's bank account and show you everything that's coming in and out as far as money and how those funds are being used? So they get you on the giving part, okay? And this is where they try to make you feel guilty, and they try to play on your emotions with the guilty part. But the part of the passage or the scripture that says they're supposed to give back to you, they don't do it. That you don't get that. Okay, you don't get over in the tithes and offerings when they say you're supposed to give it to the fatherless, the stranger, and the widows. Okay, and also says the Levites. We ain't gonna press on that. Okay, so fatherless. How many fatherless people in the church? How many widows in the church? My grandmother was a widow. They ain't give no money to her. She didn't get no money. So they do everything that they're supposed to do in regards to receiving the money. They do absolutely nothing that they're supposed to do when this book, their book, tells them that they're supposed to give some of this money back. Okay, and that the people had all things in common. Okay, which means that this ain't the church's money. It's your money. Go get a screenshot of the church's bank account and see if they'll give it to you. Okay, so they're supposed to be transparent, got nothing to hide. Ask to see the books. You won't see the books unless you on the church's board. And I mean, can you trust what they say? Can you trust the board of the church? They in the preacher's pocket. So again, we got to be smart. We have to understand what it is that we're doing, and how I want to tie in this whole Monsanto lawsuit. I don't know if anybody's heard it in the news. Anybody in the chat? I'm pretty sure y'all heard of this story. Okay, about the whole Monsanto case. Okay, so let me just pinpoint this story real quick. Okay, 2003. Okay, we have a church in Anniston. Okay, a church. This chemical plant was close to the church. The church was kind of like sitting close to their property. Okay, church been getting inundated with chemicals. So the company, they tried to buy the church so they can just clean up the waste. Okay, so without anybody knowing about it. So it was like a cover up. So they tried to purchase the church. The name of the church is Mars Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Just Google that, you'll see it. It's in Anniston, Alabama. This is what the case. This is what they was asking for in the lawsuit. Okay, they didn't even get close to the amount of money that they were supposed to get for this case. And this just comes from ignorance and just not knowing what you're doing, not seeking help and advice, and just looking at things in the proper perspective. Like, I'm a ghetto kid from Anniston, Alabama. Like, never been taught anything. Mom didn't teach me anything. Dad didn't teach me anything. So for me to be able to see some of the things that I can see is like, I don't even realize how I can do it. Like, I can just see things. You know what I mean? So This case, and I'm not a lawyer, okay, but I do know, like, if you're gonna bring a lawsuit against someone, you got to look at previous cases and similar situations and see what the payout was or what the damages were, so that you know that, man, listen, this is $1 billion company, Monsanto. They make billions a year, like billions. Their net is like billions. Their profit is like billions of dollars. After they done paid all of their expenses, taxes, everything, they still making billions. Okay, so you mean to tell me this company, who's worth, like, I mean, they're about to be acquired right now by Bayer for like $66 billion. Okay, we don't even understand what that means. We don't even understand billions because of course, we don't have any money. So how could we understand? When you're $1 billion company, you can make $700 million just from investment income. Like, your money just sitting and it's making hundreds of millions of dollars just from interest and investment income. So again, this church asked for $2.5 million in the lawsuit settlement and a church van. Okay, that's all they asked for. Okay, the property itself, the church and the property, it's in Alabama, a little small city, so property value, I would say maybe a little bit under $1 million. So they got 2.5. They like, woo, boy, we got 2.5. Don't you know, man? Monsanto paid that out like that's nothing. Like, here, man, I got that in my pocket. Like, they wrote that check really quick because they was like $2.5 million is nothing to $1 billion company. Okay, so the lawyers should have knew this, but some of the preachers who's supposed to be so smart, they're supposed to receive all this revelation from God. God couldn't tell you that you was getting cheated by only asking for 2.5 million when your land is worth almost that much, when the church building itself is worth almost that much. So they dust off 2.5 million like that wasn't nothing. They was like, man, pay that real quick before they change their mind. Okay, and then the lawyer is gonna get 15 to 30% of that for handling the case for you. So this church didn't get anything. They remodeled the church, and I went online and looked at the pictures. They remodeled the church and the van, but the people still sick. These PCBs, man, when they get into your system, this is what this chemical does. Okay, and this is why it's persistent in the environment. What it does is animals can ingest it. Okay, so when it gets into the water, gets into the ponds, into the lakes, and when people are fishing, they're eating fish that's been contaminated by these chemicals. When they eat the fish, now they're contaminated. So it goes from one to the next down the food chain. Okay, so not only is your backyard, your water, the pond, the creek that your kids play. I've played in this creek that was contaminated by toxic waste. Like, we getting tadpoles and turtles and stuff out the creek. Like, summertime, you gonna want to go play in the water. So people are playing in this creek that's contaminated by toxic waste. Okay, so this church gets $2.5 million, man, and they think you cannot tell these people that God didn't bless them with that. Okay, they've gotten they're like, okay, they got this money, and you can't tell them that God didn't bless them. But the money's probably gone now. And then you got the whole congregation. Why they didn't? I can guarantee you they didn't distribute that money throughout the entire congregation and let everybody get a piece of that money. But even if they did, it still wasn't worth the residual effects of this toxic waste. Okay, and I don't even know how this company is still in operation. They're the company also that developed Agent Orange that they sprayed in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, when they were spraying everything, trying to get the foliage to fall off of the trees. Contaminated Vietnam. The veterans are sick. The people are sick. Everybody's sick from these herbicides that they sprayed during the Vietnam War. Okay, so you got a lot of veterans having effects from those chemicals being in their body. Okay, another class action suit, $180 million. But guess how many plaintiffs was involved in that case? 10 million. So you divide 10 million by 180 million. That's no money. You basically just didn't win anything, actually. So Monsanto has had a few cases where they just poisoning everybody everywhere. Okay, so if you put that in contrast with this lawsuit that this gentleman just won, let me see. Estevan said they still claim God. Of course, God blessed you, but you had to get poisoned for him to bless you. I mean, you might live out your days, but you can pass on those contaminants to your children. Like your children, it changes this chemical changes your genetics. Like go do some reading on it. Like I read the whole court case. Like this chemical changes your genetics. So you could be fine, and then you can have a child, and your child come out with cerebral palsy. Your child comes out, with some muscular deformity or something. You know what I mean? So I mean, why are you? And because they didn't know, and I'm not blaming them, but again, because they think, oh, this is a church, God, oh, this is a blessing from God. We about to get 2.5 million. That money gone already. Okay, so again, from this court case, from Aniston, $700 million. Okay, it's 3,500 plaintiffs in this case, or a little bit more than that. Okay, my grandmother been living in Aniston her whole entire life, born in 1921. Okay, so basically by the time they started dumping toxic waste, she been there the whole time. They gave her $9,000. Okay, they gave her sister $5,000, and so total 14,000, because she received the 5,000 from her deceased sister as being the next of kin. Paid a loan, which probably less than $1,000. Maybe bought a church dress, gave all the rest of the money to the church. Okay, and this is the thing. This is my whole point with this. When you know something, and this is what we got to think about too. Again, and before I make this point, our groups, whether it be Kevin Wesley group, the Lighthouse, all of these conscious religious or anti-religious groups, when we just share things within the group, it doesn't really do any good. Okay, because we all have the same mind. Okay, I'm telling you, when I'm done with this, I'm gonna post something on the church timeline. Okay, and not to cause no disruption or anything like that, but I got to get some of them people to think, and I actually want to have a conversation with them, because again, I'm not against churches, but when the church is doing detriment to the community, we gotta like call them out on it. Okay, so that's my whole thing. So when they're doing detriment to the community, it has to be called out. And I'm not trying to start no wars or no arguments or no battles with the church. But when they do something that's detrimental, they gotta answer to it. Okay, so my grandmother goes to the church with that's $10,000. Okay, they know she's poor. They know she's been poor all her life. They know her kids are poor. They know the situation. Okay, so if I was a preacher, me, the person that don't believe in God, is immoral, sinful person. Okay, don't have no morals, don't want to do nothing right. I'm just a child of the devil. Okay, I would have asked this woman. Okay, I would have said, listen, you sure you don't need this money? You sure your children can't use this money? You sure, like, is there anything that you need? Like, have your final expense? I'm not saying you go pass away anytime soon, but I mean, do you have life insurance? She would have said no, 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 no. And then at that point, you got to be like, I appreciate the donation, but we can't accept it because you need the money more than we do. Like, you need the money more. We gonna be all right. God gonna provide. Because that's the premise, right? God will provide. So for you to be a man, a righteous man, why wouldn't you just say, ma'am, thank you, but I can't accept this? But no, they take it. Just like in the video I did, the casino and the church. Just like the casino take your money, they take.
Rick, I think your audio went out. It's not picking anything up down here, like when you speak. Like it's still detecting me, like with this desktop audio, but your mic for some reason not being picked up. Hang on a second. if we can switch it. Um, Try saying something now.
Mic test.
Let's see. Okay, they can hear you. At
Okay.
least it looks like. Can you guys hear him now?
Sound went out. What's up? What's up, Dre? Trey on, man.
Yeah, that's an old message.
Yeah.
They can hear you now. Something with the
All right. I don't know. I
with the
don't know
webcam
how.
went out. Looks
I
like
don't know how
so.
much
Looks
of
like
that
you're
you
okay
guys
now.
didn't catch, man. But I'll just try to kind of stay where I am. And basically, what my whole point to what I was just saying is, they you can't be a righteous person when you don't inquire about a large sum of money coming from poor people. Okay. Um. Again, like I said, I'm supposedly one of Kevin's minions, and I'm a child of the devil according to all the religious people. But I don't take people for their money. I don't. In my job, I just help somebody save $9,000. Like, she $9,000 check, boom, because I got the vision and I saw a mistake, and I got her that money. You see what I'm saying? So I do things like this every day. So again, if I was a preacher and someone brought me a large sum of money, I would inquire as to where the money came from and making sure that the person is okay before accepting that donation. Okay, I wouldn't accept a large donation from poor people, but these preachers, they gonna take it just like the casino is gonna take it. When you make that wager, they're not asking questions, and you lose. Hey, they taking that money. They can be like, "Sorry, sir. Oh, sorry. Let me get that." That's what they're gonna say. Okay, so but when you in the church, they don't inquire about where that money comes from, and again, that's not anything good. Okay, especially when you're dealing with people that's impoverished. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna get off that point. Another point that I just kind of want to make with this whole Monsanto case is that, okay, now we're talking about the fail, okay, of only receiving $2.5 million. Okay, let's put this in contrast. The gentleman, he's just a single person, one person, won over $250 million. And I know it was kind of broken up into compensatory damages and punitive damages. So I think he got like 40 million in compensatory damages, which means it's for his lost wages and all those types of expenses there. And then he got punitive damages, which means the company was just doing like something negligent, and they have to make an example of the company because of their negligence. But again, this company has been doing things like this for like decades. Okay. I don't even know how they're still in operation, but okay. So one man is awarded over $250 million, but an entire community, which is mostly comprised of poor people, only gets 700 million. And this is a fail on the legal team, because the legal team wants to settle a class action lawsuit quick. Okay. The quicker they can settle, because they're gonna get 15 to 30% of that 700 million. So they're not worried about how that's gonna affect your life and how if you're gonna be okay from this. They're gonna get that little settlement money, and they go on with their life, and their life is good. So that's why you need people in the community who can see and who have your best interest at heart, because we're just getting taken advantage of in the church. We getting taken advantage of politically. We're just getting taken advantage of like all over the place, and then there's nobody there to stand up for. So what I was saying before, if you can share this video, share it with people that don't agree with you. Okay, you don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be combative. Just say, look, man, I just want to, point out a few things to you. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I don't talk about religion a lot, but he dropped something on me, and we had the conversation. So when Jehovah's Witness knock on my door, we have the conversation, because I may not turn them, but I'm gonna be able to put a few things in here that they're not gonna be able to resist. They're not you like a lot of people say, you can't unhear what you just heard. So I definitely am not opposed to giving them the information. Okay, so again, share it to people who don't agree with you, because if we just sharing it amongst the group, then we just talking to people that already agree with us, and I don't think that does a lot of good. Okay, so I'm not saying destroy your relationships with your family, but if you're not gonna get cut out the will, or just stuff like that, man, if it's not costing you anything financially, then what do you have to lose? So just go for it. So again, back to the contrast between this $250 million Monsanto lawsuit versus 700 million. Okay, so again, we're not thinking about like the residual effects of this contamination that this company put in in my community, because again, it's like, man, this plant was like right down the street from where I live. Okay, anytime these pollutants broke in the air, you can the air was like, you get this odor in the air, and everybody would say, even when you was a little kid, everybody say, "Oh, Monsanto broke." Monsanto let the chemicals go because it would be in the air, and we would smell this, not knowing that we being poisoned, like not even knowing that this is killing us. Again, my sister died at 33. Just one day she fine, next day she go to the hospital. She got like stage 4. She out of here. She gone. You know what I mean? So, and then the residual of that is, I got little nieces and nephews. My little nephew went to prison at 16, and I had to carry that because I felt like that was my fault because I didn't save him. I tried to save him, but he wouldn't come with me. So I had to deal with that for years. So you're looking at the residual of all of this. Okay, and that's what these damages pay out. You're talking about a lawsuit. You're not just talking about, oh, somebody lost their house, they can't live in their home because their backyard is polluted. No, like, you pass that on through genetics. You pass it on. There's just losses all across that have to be accounted for and have to be calculated. Okay, so oh man, all right, man, Lushan, man, Lushan holding down the chat. Okay, so to put all of this in perspective and to kind of bring it all home, okay. So we're talking about, again, the tithes and the offerings, and then just being aware of where we are, financially. Okay, so religion is just it's doing a number on us. Again, when I was 26, I went to my aunt and I wanted to purchase a home. Okay. Again, my aunt was a homeowner, retired from the Air Force. She was a Christian, like heavy duty Christian, like super duty Christian. Okay. Never missed church, never missed Bible study. I said, look, um, my lease is up, my apartment. I know purchasing a home and owning a home is very important. Okay. I you live in a 3-bedroom house by yourself. Is it okay if I come, stay with you for a while? I'll pay you a little bit of money. I'm trying to save, so I can put a down payment on a house. I'm no trouble at all. I'm not this Rick. I was the Christian Rick at that time. I'm not even the same Rick. No trouble. I help you out around the house. I'll, do whatever. No friends. No, I didn't go out and party. I didn't waste my money. I didn't do anything. Wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it. Didn't teach me about home ownership. Didn't teach me anything. Okay, the one person in my family who had a home, who had a career, who was retired, who was financially stable, didn't teach probably the one person in the family that'll just suck up any knowledge that he can possibly acquire. Okay, so again, but because I didn't believe the same thing that she believed. Okay, so this religion thing is just tearing up our community. Okay, and we just need to be more aware of it. Now, this is when the church will people ask for solutions. I got a possible solution. Okay, if the church could be there, if the church could do this, okay, this would help us. When you go into church, they want to know what you believe. Okay, they want to know, oh, you believe in baptism. Especially most Christian churches, they want to be baptism, laying on the hands, speaking in tongues. What do you believe? Okay, instead of saying, there should be a questionnaire that you should fill out. Okay, and the questionnaire should say, do you have a job? Do you have a GED, or do you have a degree? It's almost like a job application. They should have a questionnaire saying everything that your deficiencies. You have insurance, life insurance, health insurance, whatever.
because those areas where you lacking, they should be able to come in and fill those areas. So if they can't do that, what good is it? How is it going to help our community? And that's the only question I ask. So if anybody has any questions in the chat, anything that they want to discuss, man, I know I'll be like going and going. Okay. Yeah, I know Kev is in here answering some questions about the fatherless, but I kind of like went way through that. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think God gave her cancer. Is it Danilovich? Um. Okay. All right. So Nemo. Okay. Yeah. So again. Okay. So Kev put together this platform, and I just wanted to come on here, man. I just wanted to touch on just giving, because it made me like really upset when I found out my grandma gave all that money to the church. And if you have children, if you know, and I know a lot of us, we conscious and we know what to do, but like you can't just leave your kids to figure out this life and just 18, they're 18, they going out to get a job, they just like, okay, what you gonna do? Why are you asking your children what are they going to do? This should be a conversation that you're sitting down with them, having with them together. And say, look, okay, this is what we you need to be guiding them and telling them what they need to do. Okay, this is where I got you a job set up over here. You don't have to go to school because by 2 years, 3 years from now, you're gonna be making X amount of dollars. I'm gonna let you stay here until you're 26. People are like 26, really? No, man, no. And I because I deal in the career where I know what other groups are doing and how they setting their people up. I'm telling you, like, and when you stay in the house until you're 26, it ain't because you can go buy a car that you can't afford, or it's not so you can go buy some clothes that you can't afford. So you can have a Louis belt or something. Come on, man, like. You have to teach the kids, okay, if you're gonna stay here, this is the plan. You're gonna save your money. You're gonna be resourceful. So that way when you move out, you're already set to go. Okay, we're going to try to minimize or eradicate your student loan debt. Either don't allow you to get yourself into debt, because a lot of us are dealing with that. So whatever you can do to just set your kids up, man, to keep you talking about building wealth. Wealth is built generationally. Okay, so student loans are killing us. A lot of things are just killing us. So if we can help our people maneuver or just kind of stay away from some of these areas, then we're going to do ourselves a great um, deal. Okay, so E EAE says try to get William Jones. Okay, yeah, like Shandell said, a lot of us don't have the knowledge. But a thing is, Shandell, a lot of us who do have the knowledge, we don't share it. Okay, we don't pass that information. Like okay, let me just put it to you like this. I had an uncle, like not an uncle, but like a distant cousin, but he was around enough to know he owned like 4 or 5 properties. Okay, owned a store, so he had all of this information. It's never shared it. So even when we have the knowledge, we just don't want to share it with each other because we want to be the top gun, and we want other people in the community looking up to us like, whoa, so and so is getting it, he's doing it. So and then we want to have that admiration when we should be sharing this information here. This is what I did. This is how I did this. This is how I made this happen. This is how you can make it happen. So even when we have the knowledge, Shundell, a lot of times we're not willing to share it. Okay. Tim Thomas said we like, crabs in a bucket. Okay. We also gotta learn from each other's mistakes. Okay. So when you see 10 people down in a hole, You gotta inquire. You gotta be like, man, how you get in the hole? Well, I tried to jump over. It was too far. I fell in. So you just can't be doing the same things to be in a hole with everybody else. You gotta learn from other people's mistakes, and a lot of us, we either try the same thing thinking that the outcome is gonna be different, or we just don't, get the lesson behind someone else's fall. So we definitely have to learn those lessons. Let me see, Frankie D. Uh, share, but people get so offended. I know patience. People do. Okay, so Chandel says, we feel like if we teach one another, we will be irrelevant and less necessary. Yeah, just this is what I'm saying. Like we are like we're gonna either create competition for ourselves, or again, if somebody else gets the information or they do what you did better than you did it, now you don't have that status anymore. So man, if I could teach someone something and they take that information and they flourish and they prosper from it, hey, there's no shame in that. And they become better than me. I'm good. I'm happy. You know what I mean? So we got to get away. And Kev a couple weeks ago, man, with the whole Matrix thing, man, that was a very important topic because we've been caught up. And again, this goes back to just giving and receiving all of this money. You your leaders are going to show you what they're about. Okay, you cannot have a leader, man, who's like got the high fashion, driving around in these expensive cars. Even some of these motivational speakers, you got to why it's all capitalism, it's all materialism. So you have to be careful with some of the things that we listen to and some of the things that we aspire to, because it's just to get you caught up dreaming and hoping for something that for the majority of us is unobtainable. And a lot of us don't want to hear that. We just want to be like, oh, shoot for the stars. Like Les Brown say, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll still be among the stars. All of these motivational quotes that we listen to from time to time, that's just in a lot of cases, it's illogical. It's just a preacher preaching without outside of a church. A lot of these motivational speakers are just preachers, and they ain't talking about God. They talking about some other concepts close to religion. So again, one thing that I thought about today, a lot of these motivational videos and a lot of these motivational speeches, somebody need to make a motivational speech and give it to God and tell him like, look, your world is in a mess. Like you need to get on that. Um, hey, everybody's self-made, but only the successful will admit it. Okay, God, you made this world, so everything in it is like they put you in front of the mirror and say, yo, the way your life is going, it's your fault. And that's what a lot of these motivate. It's all about you, and to a certain extent, that's true. It is up to you, but everything is not your fault, man. Everything is not your fault. You've been positioned and maneuvered into a lot of the situations and a lot of the circumstances that's involved in your life, and you have to understand what those are. But a lot of these things are not your fault. So it's not rational when a lot of these speakers kind of tell us that you are where you are because that's where you want to be, and that's just totally not true. Okay, so you mean to tell me, and I don't want to, get into, slavery and all the things like that on Kevin's channel, but when someone's being lynched, that's they exactly where they want to be. Me too. You exactly where you want to be when you see what I'm saying. So that doesn't make sense, and people are like, well, Rick, you taking that out of context. The person lynching you, they may be exactly where they want to be, but the person getting lynched, I can assure you, that person is not where they want to be. So we have to be careful with some of the things that we hear and that we take in and that we accept. Everything should be taken with a grain of salt. Okay. All right. So yeah, Kev say I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's Kev with the born winners logo. I think he's still awake. But yeah, man, everything is absolutely not your fault. Okay, so we have to understand and be able to differentiate what we do have control over and what we can control. And I think Kevin just pointed out. He says a lot of business owners were lynched. Yeah, man. Not only that, let me point out something real quick while I'm touching on this. Okay. In the movie, and I don't know if a lot of you have seen this movie, but this movie is called Antoine Fisher. Okay, all right. So in this movie, Antoine Fisher was a young man. His mother was pregnant with him in prison. So of course when you have a baby in prison, they take the baby, put the baby in foster care. After she got out of prison, then come back and get him. His dad was killed when he was a kid. He went into foster care. They abused him in every way imaginable. Okay, physically, emotionally, sexually, all of this abuse he was subjected to. Okay, so again, once he purged out of the foster system, he was homeless for a short stint. So in order to escape homelessness, he went into the military, went into the Navy. Okay, so when he was in the Navy, all of the things that he went through in his life began to surface. Okay, so all of this hurt and all of this pain, he had dealt with his whole entire life. These things began to surface, and he had some anger issues. So he went to a doctor. Okay, the doctor was played by Denzel Washington in this movie, in this reenactment of his life. The doctor was named Dr. Williams. So he had 3 sessions. Dr. Williams at first couldn't get him to talk, couldn't get him to open up. So once he got the young man to open up, he says, okay, our 3 sessions is over. Now I'm going to make the recommendation for you to stay in the military for you to keep your job. Okay, so at that point, he's like, no, I'm not ready yet. Like, I need some more help. So if Dr. Williams would have just said, you know what, you got 3 sessions, that's it, I can't help you anymore, and would have sent Antoine Fisher back out into the world, into his career, he would have probably got kicked out of the military and would have ended back up on the street, or even worse. But my whole point to this is, at the end of the movie, at the end, Dr. Williams, played by Denzel Washington, and this is what we got to be careful of. He says, you beat everyone who beat you. Okay, now we say, oh, Antoine Fisher, yeah, what? You beat everybody that beat you. Okay, but the thing is, Antoine, so you're like, oh, I could be Antoine Fisher. All this stuff that happened to me in my life, it don't matter. I'm going to make it. I'm going to beat everybody. But Antoine Fisher needed help. Okay, if Dr. Williams wouldn't have cared about Antoine Fisher and wouldn't have helped him through his issues, he would have been one of the statistics that's in the prisons right now. He would have been one of the statistics that's in the graveyard right now. The thing is, a lot of us are Antoine Fisher, but a lot of us don't have Dr. Williams to help us through our issues. So when somebody tell you, oh, you can make it no matter what, again, that's true. We live in a country where you do have that ability, but a lot of these things, man, like you have to understand, some of these people that are talking to you and that's motivating you and that's inspiring you, they're not telling you the whole story. They're not telling you that motivation is just you working hard and you being persistent and you not giving up until someone with some money gives you an opportunity. That's the basis of what it is. Okay, so a lot of these motivational speakers, they getting you caught up in capitalism. They want you to know how much money they make speaking. I'm gonna get paid $50,000 for this 1 hour of work, so that you can aspire to that. That's not uh, logical for everybody to make that type of money. So these people are set up, and they put they put these people in position so that they can sell you hope. You know, and me and Andre had a discussion about this, but that's not obtainable for everyone. It may be obtainable for a few people, but you get all caught up and you working what, 120 hours a week, 160. You working ridiculous hours. Okay, so if you ain't getting paid enough, how you ever gonna get to that level? Okay, and I'm gonna make another point here real quick, and I'm gonna ask Kev or anybody in the chat, like, or Josh, if he has any closing statements, then we gonna shut this down. Um, Now with this, my sister who died of cancer. Okay, before she died, a couple years before, she called me at work. I was at work. She called me and she said we had a conversation. She needed some money. Okay, so of course, I asked her how much she needed. She needed a couple $100s. So I sent her a couple $100. But the thing she said to me after that, it just broke my heart. It broke me down. My sister, she was, oh, I'm her younger brother. I'm the youngest. Okay. My older sister told me at that time she was going to take a job at Burger King. She had 3 kids. She'll take a job at Burger King, making like $6.50 an hour, $6 an hour, some ridiculous amount of money. So like just from that conversation with her, man, I had to get up away from my desk and I went in the bathroom and it brought me to tears. Like I cried because it was so sad. And I couldn't do anything. I was powerless. I couldn't do anything. So my whole thing is like, our family, man, we're dying broke. We're broke in and we're broke in the bank. So we gotta like we gotta do something different, man. And religion, like we can't afford to give money to these people, and these people take your money and they flash it in your. Listen at this, man. They take your money and they use your money, which affords them this lavish lifestyle, and they say, "Look how God is blessing you." No, look how you are blessing them. That's it. It ain't no God. It's you. That's your money. That's your hard earned money. You go to work 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week, and work overtime so that you can give your money, whether it be 10%, $5, $10, or whatever. And then they come in Versace and our money and tell you how good they're doing and sell you this story that God. Same thing with the motivational speaking. I know a lot of people like, oh, I'm not telling you don't start your morning with a little bit of motivation. I'm not telling you don't start your morning with you got to be hungry or you see you at the top or thank God is Monday. I'm not telling you not to start your morning like that. But the thing is, you gotta think. The motivational speaker, what is it? He says, come to my seminar so that I can tell you how to change your life. Okay. So I gotta pay what $50 for a ticket, and then I gotta travel to your seminar, and I gotta buy you a book. And I got, you know what I mean? Just if you're gonna get free motivation from the YouTube videos, just let it be that. Don't take it no further, because if you take it that step further, you ain't doing nothing but you might as well just go to church and give the money to the preacher, because it's the same thing. It's the same premise. It's just a different venue. Okay, so again, we just got to be careful, folks. Josh, do you have any closing words before we get up out of here, man?
Um, no, normally don't. I was gonna say that we do have the what you call it, the shirts, the Fear No God shirts that people have been asking for on this website.
Okay.
I don't know, people wanted that last time. Kevin, is there anything? I don't know if Kevin is still around. I think he was in the chat, but he usually might have some closing statements. But that's all for me personally.
Yeah, Kev probably sleep, man. Yeah, I ain't seen him.
Yeah, probably.
I ain't seen him post anything in a while, man. And I ain't
He's
gonna
probably
I ain't
not
gonna hold
done.
the family up, man. Again, share this. Again, if it says one person that maybe you can share it to, and maybe you can have a conversation about. It's just all out of respect. Um, Man, $100 donation there. Let me see who gave that $100.
Riri, hi. Shout
Oh,
out to Riri.
yeah, yeah. Shout out, man. Everybody that's giving, donating to Kev, man. He's just a genuine dude. We know. I mean, you can
Absolutely.
see fuddy duddies when you encounter them. Kev, he just it's for a good cause. Like regardless of what he's doing professionally or just to make a living, like he needs our help. Like he just had surgery. He got medical bills. I mean, so if we're not willing to help for that, then we just ain't willing to help for anything. So I know some people, even some of the religious people who've kind of been at odds with us, they've even given some money. So again,
Yeah.
I don't know everybody's financial situation, but whatever you can give, man, is definitely going to help the brother out. If there's strength in numbers, so if all of us just give a little something, it's actually better than a few of us giving a lot. So if you can just kind of take that and let that kind of sink in. But um, thanks for everybody who joined in on the chat. Thank you for all the moderators. Lishan, man, he's a beast. He's always in there uh, defending and kicking people out and shutting people down. And so then everybody else that just continues to support. We're gonna be back on. Also, Josh had an idea, like if there's any like topics or any I guess, subject matter that you guys want to hear about, or that you would like to talk about, or that you would like for any of us to touch on, please put the information in the chat. So, give us some ideas, Josh and whoever else is going to be on to substitute for Kev in his absence, man. Because the only reason why I wanted to do this tonight, because I was going to do it on my own page, but I ain't, bro. Nobody want to listen to me. But yeah,
That
but
is not true. It is not true.
but yeah, so but I just wanted to get on so that Kev can keep his stream going and keep that energy going. So I'm pretty sure when he comes back, he's gonna come back stronger than ever. But everybody that can donate, man, thank you for the donations, man. It's love, it's hard. But if we can't be a community, and again, like you say, we always got to put our money where our mouth is. And then when we're talking about making change and doing things, we got to be willing to make that change because, dude, listen, if I lose, like, for whatever I say online, and I'm always careful about my speech and the things that I put out in the atmosphere. But if any video that I make, or if any premise, or anything that I stand on as a man, whatever that costs me, that's just gonna be the cost. Okay, and I'm willing to pay it. I've lost jobs before because they wanted me to do something that was either immoral, or they wanted me to do something that I was just like, it just went against who I was as a person. And I lost it. I lost a couple jobs like that. But I understand we got families, we got people to take care of, and we can't always make a stand. We got to pick our battles. But man, when you got something that you are really passionate about, and you really feel like you need to do this, sometimes losing that job is not a bad thing, because the job that I got fired because they wanted me to do some nonsense, I found another job, paid me more money, and I ain't even got to leave my house to go to work. So, but yeah, so you never know. So the universe might just make it better for you, or force you to be an entrepreneur. So we always talk about opening up a business. Losing that job might force you to be an entrepreneur. So you just never know what may come out of it. Take the stand, though. All right. So I love all of y'all, family. I can't do it like Cam, but look, he always say, one a candle doesn't lose its flame by lighting another. You know what I always say? The only guys that we need is each other, and the only God that I need is you. Unless Josh got something else to say, man, we're gonna be out. We're gonna say good night.
We're out, guys. Peace. See you next week.
All right, family.